Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, it's the Thanksgiving cactus, not to be confused with the Easter or Christmas cactus. First things first, everyone, a very happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. I hope you have the chance this season to spend some time with some family, some friends, thinking about all the things you're thankful for and things to come in the rest of the holiday season and looking into the new year. It's such a speedy and crazy and wild time of year, and I hope you're all doing well where you are. And so this episode is dedicated to the one and the only, the Christmas cactus. Did anybody catch that? Okay, yeah, it's the Thanksgiving cactus. And I've done a couple of shows on the Thanksgiving cactus now, because way back in one of my first episodes, I think it was like episode 23, we'll look at the archives, of course. It's my most viewed video to date at over 22,000 hits. And it just keeps going. It's not really the truest bonsai tree that you can come across by any stretch of the imagination, but people still click on that show and try to figure out what it's all about. And recently I had someone ask me to give an update because I had posted a short about 2 weeks ago about you should see it now. And of course I made that post hoping that I would have a boat full of blooms on my Thanksgiving cactus to show you. But you're going to see in a moment the blooms have been a little bit slow in coming this year. So I tried to time it this year to make my Christmas, I almost said it again, my Thanksgiving cactus bloom at Thanksgiving time. And it's not really going to work because Thanksgiving, as I'm recording this, is only a couple of days away. We're going to show you the Thanksgiving cactuses that I have now, the cacti. And this is one I thought I'd show you first. This one sits up in our bathroom. So I water it very, very rarely because of the humidity in the room from taking showers, and it really does pretty well. I do give it some water once in a while. And so we had gotten these cute little whale pots from somewhere, I don't recall where, and I thought about a year or two ago, well, whatever was in there died. I thought this would be hilarious to put a cactus in here, the Thanksgiving cactus, and it can shoot up like spouts of a whale and we can get flowers, and how cool would that look? Well, so I wanted my other cactus to bloom for you, but this one did instead. So I noticed the blooms about a week ago, and sure enough, we've got one that's really close to opening up. I'll try to get a photograph in the next day or two, depending on when I post this, and maybe that'll be the title shot, or we'll see if I can show you when it's in its full bloom. But we have a nice bloom up here. We have a little red dot right there that looks pretty weak, and we have another little one down here. We could get a few more blooms. I even see a tiny one right in here. But at least it has the one flower for you there. There is the whale. He's spouting off his stuff in full color here in a couple of days. And it's looking kind of fun. I've got this growth coming here and here, and it looks like a whale. Well, it looks like a whale spouting water, so it's kind of turned out pretty cute. So in our Thanksgiving centerpiece options of the ones we have, which I don't think are a lot right now, I think this will be one of them. So at least this one will be bloomed by then. This one might still be open, we'll see. And we might get a couple more buds that get a little bit more red and swelled up. But that one hopefully will be opening up by Thanksgiving if that one's not around. So there is the whale. Now, let's go back in time just a little bit to that previous episode. Actually, I've got a snapshot to show you, so let's look at that. So the original Thanksgiving cactus was a cutting from my wife's cactus that she had had for years. And here is a shot of the cactus without a bloom. This is how it started in 2017, the first year of its existence, as I put it into this black shiny glaze pot with that permanent bottom tray on there glued on. There you have it. It has a couple of branches down low, looks like 3 of them there, and it sprouts off and it divides into 2 on all 3 of those trunks, if you will. And that was the tree as it started within that first year. And then I got it to bloom that year. Kind of like the whale one right now. There's a picture of it a little bit closer with the bloom, and you can see it's the same color as one I have here. That is how my Thanksgiving cacti process began. It's grown up from there. So now I want to bring you back live here. And this right here is a cutting from my Thanksgiving cactus now, and it's a couple of years old. That previous picture was probably in the first year of a cutting. This is year 2 and or 3, so we'll put that right here. And then I have this guy, that's year maybe 3/4, and you can see it's starting to spread out and look a little bit more like a tree now. And then I do have a double that's about the same age, so look at this one right here. So this is kind of like this is a twin trunk right here with the bottom one being where it splits into that V there. This one is 2 trunks actually side by side, and I thought over time these could even fuse together. And so this one also is that 3 to 4 year stage. So we had that 1-year-old cutting with the green leaves, no brown yet, and then the 1 flower. Here we go with 2 to 3, 3 to 4 years of age, probably this one 3 to 4. And then we come to the one that a few people wrote in and said, hey Dave, I'd love to see an update of the tree. So here we go. Let's move everything else aside and let's bring in the tree. And there we go. The Thanksgiving cactus that started it all. So now with that first episode on episode number 23 or so, when I repotted it, and I showed you some pictures, and it had about 20 or so blooms on it. It was a picture from outside in my backyard. It bloomed early. It was really kind of nice. So I wanted to get the same effect this year because it was a little sparse in the summer, but then started to fill up late, brought it into the plant room for a couple of weeks, and then I did what I learned are tricks to try to get it to bloom. So let's review those real quick. So if you look close up on this tree, you're going to see some blooms. So I took some snaps earlier, and if you look really closely with the snaps, and I will zoom in a little bit in post-production, you see all kinds of red little dots on this tree. And all those little red rounded dots is not the new growth, which also comes out red when it starts, but those are all blooms of potential flowers. And I wanted to have about 30 or more onto the current Thanksgiving cactus, but it didn't happen, and here's some of the reason why. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I've got 8, then I've got 9, yeah, maybe 10, 11, 12 somewhere. But I was hoping it would have 3 dozen or more. Now the ones I just counted are the ones that I zoomed up on to show you those pictures, and there's maybe a couple of reasons why it didn't bloom. But as a reminder, if you have a holiday cactus of sorts and you want it to bloom in time for that holiday, I took mine in from outside and I should have put it right into my colder area with less light. So there's tip number 1, colder area. Don't bring it into your plant room where it's super warm and humid and all that. You want to put it in a darker, colder room. So my old plant room, which is now the boys' game room, I put it in there, but only after I put it in here in my plant room for 2 weeks, because I wanted to wait and put it in that plant room the first week of November so it would maybe bloom by Thanksgiving. So cooler temperatures, not as much light, you don't water the cactus as much, and you're going to get more blooms. So those are a couple of tips to make sure that you get a little bit more successful blooms. So less water, you want it drier, you're going to have it in cooler temperatures, and you're going to have it with less light rather. Now, these started to show some blooms, so I was really excited and it showed promise, but when I went down just 2 days ago to that old plant room, the kids' game room, well, the cacti had been attacked by the cat. Yeah, so I don't know if you can see here, yeah, this one right here is kind of dangling here. And if the camera picked it up, there's actually all kinds of cat hair fuzz sticking off my tree. So somebody in the household, and I don't know who, and I can't point fingers because I don't have a camera on that room, someone left the door open. Now, I purposely closed the doors because I don't want the cats to eat my plants, because they do every time they have a chance. And so I don't think that I left it open, but let's say that there's a chance that I did. And if I didn't and someone else did, hey, there are worse things that can happen in life. Not the end of the world. I'm not going to get blooms this year because the cat did destroy a lot of these branches. Chew marks, chew marks, chew marks. Right here, this piece is still dangling. I can kind of just rip it right off. And so the cat got to my tree, and the blooms are really small, and Thanksgiving is in a couple of days. So I have a couple of choices to make. I can let it bloom anyway and see how pretty it saves itself with about 9 or 10 blooms now. Not overwhelmingly beautiful, but it still would be pretty to see blooms. I can wait to do that and see, and then post some updates for you. Or I could go ahead and trim this thing right now and just get it ready for its next push of growth. So I'm going to set this one aside and think about that while we work on the other ones. So there you have the whale. I'm not going to cut the blooms off because I want it to be here for the holiday festivities come up in a couple of days here. But what I am going to do is I'm going to separate this middle one right here because I have 3 growing from one spot, not 2. I'm going to get rid of that. And see how this nicely cuts into 2 right here where that flower is? Well, I'll just cut this one now. And I'll leave that one to finish its bloom. This one did not develop into 2, so I'm going to cut it right here. This one didn't split into 2, so I'm going to cut that one there. And now this one back here where this bloom is over here, we've got this middle one down here. Let's cut that off right there. So now we have it into 3 left, right? We've got boom, boom, and boom. These 2 are kind of fighting each other, so let's go ahead and just get rid of that whole one. We'll leave this here. This did not split into 2, so let's cut it there, and we'll leave the bloom for the holiday, and then this branch will kind of shoot up this way, hopefully. Now this one splits into 2, but it's up from a whole section, but I like how this could become a new main leader here. We're going to leave that alone. And I've got 4 branches, though, coming from that part of the whale. You see that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this is a whale, not a bonsai tree in a pot, so what do I want to do? Well, let's get rid of this lower spout right there. We don't need those 2 taking up energy. I like this for the whale. I like the spout for the whale. I think what I'm going to do, though, is cut this one right here off because it's the lowest one. And that way, these 3 are all shooting up and out as a kind of a spout. And maybe this one will develop some more branching in here and we'll get it going. So we'll leave that for now. This one will still be in bloom tomorrow and maybe the next day, and then this one will be big enough to maybe considerably, possibly open up by Thanksgiving. So there we go. Thanksgiving cacti number 1. This cactus is looking good. Now the challenge with the cactus when you're making them into a bonsai tree is that they divide really well into 2s, and a lot of times they get 3s and 4s and 5s, so you cut them down to 2. But oftentimes they can look thin. So if I show you this tree from this side, look at how thin this is right here. But if I go to this side now, look at how wide it's starting to feel on this side. That's really nice. So when you look at that tree, it's going to fill out and look more round and bushy like my other one. That's pretty good. So we'd have to determine which side is the front, and that side to me looks more inviting than this side. It just seems to wrap up a little bit more. So again, there's this side, and there's that side. It kind of curves this way towards me right now, so I like this as the front. Now, if you can see, there's a little tiny bud growing right there. Right there. That's growing inside in the trunk. We don't need that one. That was so tiny, it's hardly worth talking about, but there you go, we get rid of that one. Now, what to do on this guy? There's no blooms on this one whatsoever, so I don't really care if I cut this one. We want to go from 3s to 2s if we can, and then we want this thing to continue to divide. So this skinny part right here, I've got something to show you here, and we'll see if we can point this out. So it splits right here into 2, and this one's hard woody a little bit higher than this one, which is very interesting. But you'll notice on that very one right there, if I can separate these out a little bit, is that I've got this front growth right here and this back growth right here, which gives it more of that depth. But if I keep this one, it's going to grow right out in our face. So do I keep that one or not? What I could do is cut this one off lower, so one of these 2 grow up and we have that more front-back growth than side-by-side, and then we can see where it grows in the future. We can cut this one off if we have to later on. I'm more inclined to do that to give it some more depth, kind of like this branch section over here. When we come over to this side, it's just flat. Look, right there, you see that? It's flat. It's very, very two-dimensional there, just left to right, no front to back. Just looks like a flat picture from the front. How can we change that? We just got to hope there's more growth that goes different directions later. We've got a really nice section of branch right here. It's 2 nodes worth, and then we have it split into 2, and then it splits into 2 up here, and then like this one goes into 3, which is kind of wild and crazy. This up here is really wild and crazy with growth all over the place. And so when we're cutting things back to get it grow and to thicken and grow and to thicken, we can cut it back super hard and hope branches grow a different direction. So I'm going to go ahead and do that there and cut these 2 off here. I'm going to cut these 2 off here. Now, we might get 2 more growths here, we might get 4 here, we might get 2 more here, we might get 4 here, who knows. But I'm hoping for front back growth on this one now and not more narrow this way. So we'll see if that'll work. And now when you pull this aside, look, this is kind of competing against this, so it would make sense to pull this one off right here. So I think I'm going to do that for now, is to cut that one off, and we'll leave this front one to grow a little bit taller. I'm going to go ahead and cut this one right here, and we're just going to see what's going to happen here with the new growth on this guy. And now we have this branch out front and this one here. We'll see if this one can look okay or if it's just going to be in our way. Or maybe that's the back branch if we make this the front someday. But I just want to leave it for a little bit of front-back direction instead of everything off to the side. So now we come to this one right here, and you'll notice this has its first front-to-back division way down here, which is lovely. And so we're just going to let that grow. Make that one shorter. You'll see here there's a triple right there. There's a split right there. But it's going in this way. We want everything to grow out to the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this off right here. We're going to cut this off right here, and we're just going to hope for new growth in a better direction there. But I already have the branch established there. There's one established here. These 2 are front to back, and then maybe we'll get another one side by side next time again, like this one is, and we'll just have more ramification. That just leaves this top section, which now, again, is both right and left here. Here's right and left, and there's one out front. So again, we often take the fronts of branches off, which would make it more flat again. So part of me wants to keep that one, but maybe it's not going to be what we need it to do for right now. These 2 do have turning directions. Look, at this one goes this way towards the camera, and this one goes this way. So if I did keep those 2, I have some nice direction, but then I got that one in the back that looks really nice. I don't know what to do there. I am going to cut it down to here. And I'm going to cut it down to here. Because we know we're going to do that for sure on all of these right here. And see, look at how that splits into 2 right there. And that splits into 2 really nicely right there. So this one we can bring lower. This one we can bring lower. They split into 2, but again, this is a big cutback. So we can let this all now take off in the growth in the plant room and just shoot up this year before we get it outside next spring. I still haven't done anything with a decision on those right there. I think I may just... every bone in my body with bonsai wants to get rid of one of those, so I don't have 3 growing right there because I don't want reverse taper, and this is kind of coming out at us. It grows more up now. It's not an eye poker per se, but I like the front back design, so I'm going to be bold and I'm just going to cut this one off. And if I don't like that decision later on, we'll just cut the whole thing off down here in future trims, and we'll go from there. So that is where I'm going to leave that one right now. This is front to back. This is now front to back. It's going to get some more depth to my tree so it's not so skinny. And then maybe this will be the front someday. Or maybe we'll keep this in the front someday and this will start growing a couple things sideways, or who knows. We just have no idea. So that is tree number 3. So I don't know if that's going to be the front of this tree someday, because these will come out and be individual trees at some point. Or would that be the front? I kind of like that as the front at the moment. And now again, this is the thin part of the tree this way, but this back one grows this way. This one kind of comes in between the two, and this one kind of goes out towards the back. So I have a lot of good variation on these branches. I really could just leave it alone, but we're just going to cut it back for its winter growth. So I'm going to go ahead and cut all of these off right here and see where the new growth comes up. Right there. And you see how that one split into two? We'll leave that one there for now. Now this one has two really close together. This one's just kind of crowded on either side, so we'll leave that there. I'm going to give this a fresh cut right there. Oops. This one I'm going to cut back to here. And now we have that little stubby growth right there. We could always maybe wire some of that out. So this middle branch here has a triple right here. It goes out this way, grows up here for the main leader, and then it grows off to the left there. I'll definitely cut this one off so it's not competing with all of this right here. And I'm actually going to go ahead and cut this one off as well. And now we have that stub there, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut that off and leave this double here and see what happens with the growth down there. So we're left with this one that splits into two right above it. I'm going to cut these shorter. I'm going to cut this one shorter. I like how this one has a little bit of frontward growth. I just don't know how that's all going to grow in the future, so we'll just leave it at that. This back one kind of comes back over here. We're going to cut this one much shorter, much shorter, much shorter. Let me take a peek at that. So to maybe make this part of the cacti here, if that's the front, to make this go more this way, let's take it off right there. And we've kind of determined where this thing is going to possibly grow more to this one side. So it's going to kind of curve up this way and grow this way. I think we'll leave the rest of it alone for that guy on this side. So that's a tree that's attached at the bottom. These trees were not attached when they were planted. I think I planted them so they would get closer together and maybe fuse together, and they are awfully close to doing that. They look pretty fused on the bottom. I'll look at a transplanting this one next summer, and we'll see what we can do with these trees. Now these are kind of twin trunks. They look the same all the way up in many, many aspects. The direction is this way. I don't know how we would look at this twin trunk as a single tree, except for side by side. And they kind of cover each other, so you have to have some movement. If they're this way, you don't see the backs of the branches. If they're this way, they lean down too much towards you and you don't see the backs of the branches. But here they kind of hide each other. So I don't know what this is going to do in the future. But for right now, I'm wondering if I can give it a really harsh cutback. Well, I knew I was going to give it a really harsh cutback. We're just going to have to make some decisions. So I know every time I cut these, we're going to get a lot of growth back. We're going to see which direction they grow in. I cut down to one, and then it usually grows two. And then we can see which ones we're going to keep later. This is a thin one. We'll leave it there for now. Cut this one. So look, I'm cutting all of these down to just that one stalk, and then they will divide in the next set of growth here. So there we made a drastic cut to that tree. We got rid of most of its foliage, except for one little branch here and one back here. So this is a 3 back here. But now if you look at the tree from this side, this is kind of a neat trunk back here. And if we change the planting angle to that, this one splits way down low, and this one we can see, this one we can see. We just can't see this one. So do I get rid of the front one here and just keep a solo here and make some curve into this tree? And then we have a twin trunk down below, but then this one doesn't split until much higher, which is kind of interesting. And let's do that. Let's go ahead and get our concave cutter here. I don't use concave very much on this tree, but let's do it right down there. There we go. That's a big cut for a Christmas cactus. Sorry, I did it again. Quarter in the quarter jar. My Thanksgiving cactus there has been chopped. Okay. So now we took the twin out of this one and kept this one twin trunk, and this one kind of bends now into this solo trunk. And again, if we plant it this way, we could have an interesting little tree with 3 trunks down there in the future, especially if these two fuse together. So if that is the case, we're going to go ahead and get rid of this outside branch. So we don't have these two competing, and these two are out this way now. This competes with this a little bit, but we might be able to take that off in the future. We're just going to see now what grows on these stumps, and we'll see what happens. And again, we'll probably plant it like that. So a lot done to the holiday cactus, in this case, Thanksgiving. So there we go, 3 out of 4. It's decision time. What am I going to do with the original mama tree here? The cutting from my wife's Thanksgiving cactus that is now 5 years in the making. So again, that first picture was 2017. This is 2022, 5 years later. And we have a nice little bushy. It almost resembles that of a tree. There are many people out there that are going to say, that's not a bonsai. That doesn't look like a tree. It's not stopping me from having some fun. What do I do? Since we don't have a lot of blooms and the cats got to this one, I'm just going to cut it and let it get back into a healthy tree and grow out here in the plant room. It's a healthy tree. It's growing really nice. It's just that the cats kind of did their number on it. So here we go. Let's see if we can trim this one up as well. Where to start on this tree? So take a peek at that. Is that the front? Or is that the front? And this right here is a good example of this split right here, split into 2. And then this one split almost facing me now this way. This one kept going straight up and kind of split more out this way. And then this one split that way, which is super nice. We have a nice little cradle of branches in here. And some of them you can't see. So when you see this tree right here, you cannot see the branch back here at all at the moment. I don't think either one of them is bad. I just think this one always presents a little bit better because of this back branch right here through the tree. When you look through the tree this way, I like seeing this tree in the background to give it depth. So you're looking at the front right here. What happened? Oh, I got so long-winded. That never happens usually with me if you're new to my channel. It just doesn't happen. My camera stops at 30 minutes. When I got up to look at the final shot to see if I was in frame, I was at 40 on the audio counter, and then I went, ugh. So you saw me present the tree, and then, oh, yeah. So I obviously decided to chop this thing pretty heavily. I chose the front that you're seeing because you can see this back branch from the front. This could also be the front. Yeah. But we got rid of a lot of foliage and got this ready to take off in the plant room for the late fall here in the winter months before we get it out for the spring. I left a couple of branches in front of each other here for the time being, cut them all down really short to see if I can get more bifurcation in opposite directions from where they were growing before. The tree's looking really good. It's really healthy. The cat's got all the tips of them all, but everything else is just super healthy and we're in good shape. So let's put all the trees on the table, give it one final spin, and we'll call it a night. There we have it, the Thanksgiving cacti in their glory. The centerpiece at this Thanksgiving feast will have a flower and a half maybe. We'll see if that one hangs on for a couple more days and this one poofs up here. We've got the big mama tree that led to all of these trees right here. And look at how big these are. These are cuttings from this tree, so they can grow pretty fast. We had the flashback in the beginning of the show with those pictures from 2017, so this is 5 years old right now, and these are about 3 to 4 years old cuttings from this tree, so that's why there's some woody to them already. This one might be that 3 to 4 year range. This is 2 to 3 after cutting it. This is the 5-year-old, and this is maybe again a 2 to 3 year old branch right now. There we have it. We have our holiday cacti, Thanksgiving to be specific, all pruned up for the holidays. Yeah, it's probably time to eat soon. Well, for me. well, later for me, right now for all of you, if you're watching this on Thanksgiving. And if it's after Thanksgiving or during Thanksgiving, regardless, hey, I wish you all the best. Happy holidays. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. I hope you were able to spend it or are spending it with loved ones. And I wish you all the best this holiday season. We have a lot more shows to come from the plant room, but for right now, these need to go back on the shelves, and I have to think about cleaning my house before guests come over. So take care of you, take care of your bonsai, and we'll see you very, very soon. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.